and I'll come back into the meeting. We're live. I will look on the feed as we wait for people to join in. And then I will get our PowerPoint up, get that ready as everyone is joining in.
And it's 11 o'clock straight up, Betsy.
Straight up. 1 p.m. on the East Coast.
1 p.m. East Coast.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am BetsyCoyne here with Theresa Barnabei. And we're happy to be joining you. Like we said, I'm coming to you from New Jersey on the East Coast where it's 1 p.m. I am a technology educator and coach. And I have been teaching technology for over 30 years. But 2020 brought me to the real estate industry in a big way. I met many people who could not continue with their business in person due to what has occurred. And I was able to teach them how to use this application called Zoom. And I have done it quite a bit in 2020, and I continue into 2021. So I'm very happy to be here to bring to you the technology aspect of how to make a Zoom meeting more engaging. And Theresa, why don't you tell everybody where you're coming from?
Sure, I'm Theresa Barnabei. I'm coming from Tucson, Arizona. That's why it's 11 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock your time. So today I practice full-time as an instructional educator. I have my own real estate school and I coach folks across the country. But most importantly to you today is I am a licensed realtor. And I've been licensed since 1997. I was an investor since the early 80s. So I have pretty much lived within the real estate realm. Now in there, where I met Betsy was at United Parcel Service. And here's what I want you to know about that. We learned our business acumen from a company like UPS. And so whenever we talk and whenever we do this together, we talk about the principles of business and then we talk about the application of those principles. So I'm going to talk about the principles of the real estate business from the business acumen viewpoint and the realtor viewpoint. And Betsy's going to teach you the application of what we're talking about from her business acumen from UPS and now her technology training. And so we're giving you this full package today so that in a very short amount of time, we can make you as most efficient as we possibly can, most engaging on your Zoom meetings that you're going to be having, regardless of how we are free to move about the country. We will always have this resource called virtual meetings. And I think that we will probably never go backwards in the real estate industry, that we'll always have this opportunity. And I think a lot of you already have had these opportunities when you're working with buyers from out of state who are making offers on properties they've never even seen, sellers who are out of state who want to list their properties. So we'll never go away from the virtual aspect. So our goal today is to give you top tips to make your Zoom meetings more engaging. And we can't wait to share with you a couple of the tricks of the trade just to make those more engaging. Now, what we really want to know, if you would put in the comment box below, what percent of your business has shifted to virtual? Now, before you answer that question, we want to give you a quick guideline. If you are on Zoom meetings and it's just you on the camera and your client on the camera, that's probably like 25% you went virtual. If going virtual doesn't mean that, you know, you hold up the piece of paper like this is a listing agreement. It's not like you hold up the piece of paper and say, see what I'm talking about, Mr. Client, Mr. Client? That's not what we call virtual. That's still in the 25% mode. But if you feel like you have enhanced your presence on Zoom better than you had ever before, then it's 50%. And those of you that feel absolutely, totally confident that you are a Zoomer, then please go ahead and put 100% in the comments and let us know where you are in the Zoom world as of right now. So today, look, we are so excited to be your very first mobile Monday in 2021. Like, what an honor for us to be with you to launch this series in this coming year. So we're very, very excited. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to use the listing appointment. Like you're on a listing presentation via Zoom. That's the backdrop that we're going to use. Please know that whatever we teach you in this backdrop, you are going to have the opportunity to duplicate it if you're working with a buyer, if you're working with a home inspector and doing a review on Zoom with your buyer, if you're working with your title companies. It doesn't matter. We're giving you a basis so that you can have whatever conversations you need in a real estate transaction from point A to point B, right? We're started the transaction and we're at closing. Everything that we're teaching you, you have the ability to use some of these tools as we go through. So using the listing presentation format, Betsy's going to show you how you like really use the tools that are available to you. Now, before we jump into this tool, we had a PowerPoint slide up before. So you have the opportunity of using a PowerPoint slide. There you go. Betsy just flipped it back.
Yep.
Seamlessly. Thank you, Betsy. And Betsy's going to show you where you access all of that. So Betsy, why don't you go ahead and take it away and now teach them the technology side of what they can do. Go for it.
Yes, you do see me glancing over to my other devices that are here. I'm the techie in the room, so I'm keeping track of the comments. I know Rachel's on with us as well as Leah, so thank you very much. And I see that they're repeating your request. We want to know what percentage did you go virtual in 2020? It's my job to remind you, how do you do this in Zoom with the tools available? And we're in a Zoom meeting right now, coming to you, live streaming directly to Facebook. And on the screen, you can see there is, in your Zoom meeting, you have a green button for sharing screen. And when you click it, you get options, and the options will vary based on what you have prepared prior to coming into your meeting. So the most important thing is, if you're going to share a PowerPoint presentation for your listing presentation, that you have it open already. So you can see here in my choices, in my bottom row here, we've got a PowerPoint. That's our opening slide that we were showing you. We also have a listing agreement, which is a PDF, and that happens to also be open. So that's why you see that as a choice. I have my browser open, and then I might have a Finder. I'm on a Mac. If you're on a Windows computer, you might have your File Explorer if you need to get to any other files that you want to show to your client. So in our case, we would pick the PDF, and then the PDF would come up on the screen in your meeting so that you can now have it on hand to talk about with your client and go through it step by step. So sharing a screen is probably one of the best tools, and we do it right up front to make your meeting more engaging, without a doubt.
Yeah, so that's taking it to the next level where they can actually see what you're talking about. So now you're at the I don't know, the virtual kitchen table, right? Because that's what we're taught in real estate all the time. You're at the kitchen table. And one of the things that Betsy and I learned at UPS is that you do it right the first time and you only touch it once, right? So we were taught you only touch a package once. So do whatever you're going to do with it, do it once. So that's what the philosophy is that we want to share with you here, is that when you're doing the listing presentation, some of you are already doing what we're about to show you, where you're filling in the blank as you're on the Zoom call with your client. Okay. Now, some of you are taking notes so that when you get off the Zoom call, you're going to fill in the blanks. And we're going to go back to that business acumen that says, no, do it now. So Betsy's going to show you that in your PDF writer, even though you're sharing a screen in Zoom, you have the capability of completing that form as you go through the listing presentation. And so if you have the right PDF reader, and then while you're doing is you're doing a fill. That's it. That's all you're doing. It has nothing to do with Zoom. It has everything to do with just your ability to maneuver around this PDF. Now you're going to take this PDF and you're going to upload it into whatever your e-sign program is, right? And so you'll have it done by the time you get off the call. Now, what I love about your listing presentation, which is quite different than what we use here in Arizona, is that you have these boxes that highlight what the seller should pay attention to. Love it. But as you're going through your listing presentation, there are other things that you might want to highlight. And so we're going to give you an example of, let's say you drove past the property last night and you noticed that there are solar panels on the roof. Now, we know in this industry, there are so many questions about solar panels. Are they included? Aren't they included? Are they a fixture? Do they stay? Don't they stay? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to turn it back over to Betsy to show how you get your potential seller on a Zoom engaged right where you want them to be engaged as you're going through the listing contract.
Yeah, so like in this section where you were just pointing out, Theresa, and there are these bullets, there is an item that I might want to bring attention to with my client. Well, in a Zoom meeting, you have a button that's called Annotate, and it's up here in your control bar. Everybody has this control bar, especially when you're sharing. It has this toolbar, which has buttons that lets you do all sorts of things. And one of them is draw a shape. And so by using the draw button, I get to pick the shape. Let's say I want to draw a circle. So I click there, and then I'm going to bring attention to that solar electric and solar water heating system just by doing that. And then we're talking together. I don't have to say, see where my mouse is? Do you see where I'm pointing to? Or I don't, like you did earlier, I don't have to hold up something to the screen. I can do it right on the screen with my client and make it very, very clear. So annotating is a great way of bringing attention to that part of the document that we're talking about.
So now let's say you're at the virtual kitchen table and now you've talked about solar and you have discovered in that listing presentation that your seller says, or your homeowner says, oh, it's leased, which opens up a whole nother can of worms. So Betsy, how would you leave this section and go to another section?
Right. So as I start to scroll down, my annotating is still on the screen. So the annotating toolbar has a really easy little trash can. So I can just trash my drawing in a sense, take it off the screen, and then move on down to the next section, which we might be talking about. And then I'm in business again to do whatever I want. I can highlight an area. For instance, if we wanted to talk about maybe this next section, I would just turn on my annotating toolbar again, and now I can draw that shape around another section and bring their attention to it. Once again, engaging them in the conversation. Really, something visual really brings your eye to it. Yes. It really does.
So in this section now, we've brought the client's attention, like Betsy said, right to where we are so that they're not going in other places on the form. Now we're going to have to talk about, well, if you just told me the solar system is leased, then I'm going to use my PDF tool and I'm going to type in solar system. Now, look, if you have, now listen, this is really cool. If you have addendums, if you have lease solar system addendums, and you had that ready and open to go, you could open that right now and go start completing the addendum. So you can move about in many different places as you need, depending on how many things you had open, as Betsy explained in the very beginning. So if you had the addendum open and you have an addendum and you want to use it, you can always use it here.
Now, I do see there's a question from Cindy Chandler in the comments. I'm going to address that now because it's a good question about, she wanted to know what PDF tool are we using? I'm assuming that's what she meant, to fill in the contract. And this actually is not a PDF tool. It's not a third-party tool. We simply have the PDF open on my computer. My computer, the Mac, has a program called Preview. It comes with it. If I was on a Windows computer, it would be open in Adobe Acrobat Reader, the free reader. And you are able to edit the fields, the text fields in a PDF in these readers.
Yeah, and we're using PDF here. Thank you for that differentiation, Betsy. We're using PDF here. However, you could have your forms library open and you could be sharing your forms library, right? So as you're doing your transaction management and you've already opened a file for this particular seller, that file's open, you're in your forms library and you're pulling up the listing contracts. It's the same concept that we're talking about here, okay? And by the way, we'd like to thank Cindy for initiating us getting your legitimate copy of your listing agreement. So Cindy, thank you for initiating that. We appreciate you.
She's also the one to bring our attention to the Mobile Monday group and make this connection. So we want to thank her as well for introducing us to this group. So thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. So let's say we went through the entire listing agreement and your homeowner says, let's do it. Betsy, I'm going to hire you. Let's do it. So Betsy's pretty excited. Now, when we're at the kitchen table, maybe it depends on your style, of course, but maybe you high five, maybe you shake the client's hand. Kind of difficult to do that here on a Zoom call, right? Because we're in that contactless environment. But we can go back to something really cool. So as Betsy scrolls through your 12-page listing agreement, and we're getting ready to where the seller's like, yes, we're going to sign it. Now, they're not going to sign it here, guys. You're going to send them the document in your electronic signature system. But when we're right here and the seller says, yes, let's do this, Betsy's going to be excited and has a tool that's going to show how you can express your excitement, add a little levity to a very long listing presentation. So Betsy, show us this next fun tool, would you please?
Yes, very true. So exactly, we just breezed through this document, but in reality, you've gone through it page by page and you get to this end and you're having that conversation. Well, the Annotate toolbar has a button called Stamp. You see it there, right there. And it has some cute little symbols. And so, you know, if I wanted to show my love for being indicated that I am going to, that this conversation, this meeting went very well, I can show my love back that way. So it's a fun way to show your emotion using these little shapes. Your client can do the same thing back, just to, once again, bring a little levity into this, virtual meeting. We're not there. And so Theresa has the same thing on her end. It has nothing to do with us being live with you today. It's a normal Zoom meeting function where anybody in your meeting, not only the host, can also annotate.
So I'm giving my realtor a 5-star rating. Now, one of the things that Betsy and I talked about as to why we wanted to show these tools is because I had a live situation just last week. My niece in Pennsylvania is buying a house and she calls me and she says, can you please review the contract? So I reviewed the contract and it all looked fine, but I don't practice in Pennsylvania. So I said, what does your agent say? And she said, well, she sent me an email with this other attachment. And the other attachment was a relocation addendum to the purchase contract that my niece had submitted. And I said, well, what did your agent say about this addendum? And she said, my agent just sent it to me and told me to read it and sign it. And I almost fell off my chair because here's a first-time home buyer, not only making an offer for the first time, but now making an offer on a relocation property that now there's a relocation addendum. And if any of you have worked on a relocation property, you know that their addendums are their own 10, 12 pages. And I was floored that an agent would just email it over and not have any review process of what it is that they were asking their clients to sign. So please keep that in mind when you think about engaging a buyer even, or in this case, a seller on a Zoom call. How do you review the contract? How do you review the items, the terms, the conditions? We just showed you the easiest way to make that call more engaging while doing your fiduciary duty of reasonable care to make sure that they understand what is in the document that we're asking them to sign, okay? So huge opportunity here for you to make any presentation or any meeting that you have on Zoom that much more engaging. Betsy, do you have any last tech tips you'd like to share with them?
I am going to review one thing, but before I do that, just for everyone who's on with us, we're at the 20-minute mark, so definitely put your questions in the comments and we'll address them in this last segment. Definitely time for Q&A. But I did want to review that we got to this end here and you can easily clear whatever annotating you have done on the screen. Before you scroll away from it, you want to just clear all the drawings. There are some other tools on here, which we're not covering today just due to time, but it is very efficient. There is a text tool on here. I would not use that in this case because it's not permanent. So you do want to, when you are using a PDF in the meeting like this, I know Cindy again wrote in the comments, are we using Adobe? I'm on a Mac right now using a program called Preview. It comes with a Mac. So it's Mac's version of Adobe Reader. And so the answer would be yes, if you're on a Windows computer and you have Adobe Reader installed, the free version, yes, that would be the answer on a Windows computer.
Betsy, if I can add, last night, Betsy and I have Adobe, Betsy has the Mac, and we pulled them both up to compare them. And really, they're kind of seamless. Yeah, in how you operate that. And if anybody has any questions on what is a PDF, Acrobat, Adobe, that's when you reach out for Betsy. Not Theresa, Betsy.
Not Theresa.
You want to know how to do business and sales, call me. You want to know how to do technology, call Betsy. So talk to her about the PDF and Adobe and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, and then just one other item I wanted to bring up, which was we have a PowerPoint today. It's one slide. We were doing our content with you live. So normally you would have a slide deck, or obviously you would be giving your listing presentation and you'd be prepared with the presentation there. So that is another piece to your technology preparation ahead of time, is to have that presentation done. And that's where I really wanted to know, Theresa, if you wanted just to give a few tips while I look through the questions about having that PowerPoint done ahead of time, or what it takes. Yeah.
Sure. And I'm going to pose it this way. Have you ever had a client, you know for a fact that you told them something, and then you go and you say, well, do you remember when we talked about the solar system? And they're like, no, I don't remember that. Well, it's because adults have so much going on in their minds that they're only going to catch about 10% of what you say. Now, the reason why a PowerPoint is so important, or the reason why annotation is so important, is because adults retain more when they hear, see together, so that they'll remember it more. So I'm a PowerPoint person or a whiteboard person because I truly want people to hear what I'm saying. I want them to see it because I want to increase their retention, so that they can't come back to me, 3 days later and say, hey, you have the documentation I need for the solar system. And they're like, well, you didn't tell me. Yeah, I did. Well, you don't want to have that argument. You just want to ensure that you've given them enough tools in your presentation to increase their retention, to pay attention to what you had to say. That's why I advocate other means of visual effects versus just me sitting here as a talking head in the Brady Bunch format on Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Thank you. That's exactly what I know, because I know from what aspect you come from when it comes to having that PowerPoint, the information ready for them so that it's clear. So I don't see any other questions in the comments. Let me just, I'm going to go through, just for those who are joining us. I have seen that the numbers have been increasing while we were together. And just briefly before we end, I just want to remind you that from the technology point of view, when it comes to your Zoom meeting, you want to be prepared before you come in and have all of your content open. And so it'll be available to you. This is the share screen. And that second row is what you pick from. So as long as you've got it open ahead of time, you just pick it and you click share, as it says in the bottom right corner. And then your participant or participants will see it. So I do see a question that's come up. Are we able to record the Zoom and share with the client to avoid that type of situation?
Yes.
Yes. So your Zoom control bar has the record button on it. Your Zoom account has a setting where you can set it so that the recording turns on automatically when your meeting starts. And you can decide whether the recording will be local on your local computer or in the cloud. There is a part of your Zoom account. So if you own the account that you're Zooming from, then yes, you can use the cloud content to store that recording. But so recordings are very helpful. It's knowledgeable to your client that you are recording. There is either an audio message that plays as well as a symbol on the screen so that they're notified that the recording's happening. So that's a good question.
That recording comes as an MP4 that they can share with their client, right?
That's
MP4
correct.
is a video with sound. So yes, a great point and great risk management tool, by the way, because whatever conversations you're having throughout the transaction, if you do this format and you record every call, you have just taken your risk management of, oh my gosh, my agent didn't disclose that to me, to nil. Like they can't say that because it's on a recording and they have it and they can always review it. So great point, whoever put that.
That was Daniela. Daniela, thanks for that question.
You, Daniela. Great point.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, are there any other questions for who's here? Thanks so much for staying on with us. Theresa, do you have any final points before we turn off the live stream?
Look, guys, keep your doors open through Zoom. I've experienced, I had to reach out for Betsy because when our schools closed down, we couldn't meet in person. I reached out for Betsy and I'm like, can you teach me Zoom? Because I don't know anything about it, but I still have to conduct business or I would have been out of business in 2021. Some of you stayed in business. Some of you had your best year ever. Some of you went to the sidelines. And so I'm going to recommend that if you had the sideline vantage point, you didn't have your best year ever. So look, get in the game, get on the field, learn Zoom, set your meetings up. You can have them with buyers, sellers. You can have them at the beginning of the transactions, throughout the transactions. Just don't be afraid of it. It's the new norm. I don't even like that term. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. But look, this is the way business is moving, no matter what. So don't look back, just get on board and go. Okay, that's all I would say. Keep your business going. And I hope 2021 is your best year ever. Go for it, guys.
Yes. And yes, I will end it then by Daniela again. Thank you. Asked, how can you reach out to us if you have any questions? In the caption of this video is our contact information. If you rewatch the video, I had the PowerPoint slide up that has our contact information on it. We are also in this group and you can simply click on our names. You can reach us through Facebook. Please do. That's the best way, I'd say. Facebook Messenger or our phones. That would be great.
Cool. Thank you, Danielle.
All right. Again. Thanks, everybody. And thanks
to your sponsors. Yay.
Yes. And thank you, Leah and Rachel, very much for helping to set this up. Really appreciate it. Have a great day and a great year, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.